Final synthesis episode: when safeguarding becomes control. This final episode is not about one mother. It is not about deciding guilt or innocence inside a private family home. It is about what happens when a system becomes unable to tolerate challenge, and what that does to children, families, and the people working inside it. Once a system decides who someone is, every institution that touches that person begins to behave as if the decision is settled. Safeguarding quietly turns into control. In this case, the family court, sitting in private, reached firm conclusions about a mother's character and motivation on a civil standard of proof. Those conclusions did not remain confined to that courtroom. They travelled into criminal sentencing, where they were quoted verbatim to justify imprisonment. They travelled into prisons, shaping risk classifications. They travelled into safeguarding, extending even to an unborn child. They travelled into the media, framing public understanding. What followed was not violence or escalation of harm, it was speech. A brief encounter at a petrol station, a few words spoken to a child, an attempt to meet police and Parliament with evidence. At the time of that encounter, the mother was 34 weeks pregnant. She was en route to a scheduled meeting with a police superintendent, carrying a detailed dossier documenting discrepancies between police records and social worker statements, inconsistencies in evidence handling, and concerns that the child remained at risk. After that meeting, she travelled onward to London for an all-party parliamentary meeting chaired by John Hemming MP. The meeting was attended by around 100 parents raising concerns about the family court system, and the chief executive of CAFCASS, Anthony Douglas, was a guest. According to reporting by Christopher Booker, she approached the chief executive of CAFCASS directly for help. After these events, she was held in police custody for up to 72 hours. Only after that detention, she was summoned to the High Court in London to show cause why she should not be imprisoned. Heavily pregnant, she was required to leave in the early hours of the morning, around 5 a.m, under threat of immediate incarceration. Less than 12 weeks earlier, she had celebrated her daughter's birthday at a restaurant. Family members were present. Child protection supervisors were present. The visit was calm, supervised, and uneventful. Yet when she encountered her daughter at the petrol station, the child appeared terrified, as though confronted by a stranger or someone dangerous. This fear was not born of long absence, it had been learned. The shock to the pregnant mother was severe. After the police meeting, paramedics met her in London due to acute abdominal pain. Once reassured that her unborn baby was safe, she discharged herself from hospital and continued on to the parliamentary meeting. While later in custody, safeguarding processes extended again. An unborn child protection plan existed. Removal at birth was contemplated. On the advice of a member of Parliament, she fled to Ireland to protect her baby. Irish social workers, instructed by their English counterparts to remove the child, were alarmed. They assessed the mother directly and found no safeguarding risk. Christopher Booker later wrote of his contrast in this article: "Social workers see sense. It's just a shame it's not ours." Later that same year, while the mother was in prison, the Ministry of Justice Prison Services in-house social work team conducted their own assessment. She met all the criteria for the mother and baby unit: no substance misuse, no unmanaged mental health issues, and no safeguarding concerns. After a 90-day enforced separation, she was reunited with her baby and safely cared for her child in custody. She was described as a model prisoner and a caring mother. At the same time, when release on a temporary licence was considered, external agencies classified her as MAPA Level 3, a category reserved for dangerous offenders. Her offence was a breach of a court order. The prison governor overruled the external agencies, stating there was no risk and no rehabilitation required. Upon release, her first phone call was to Christopher Booker. Across 2 countries and multiple independent assessments, the same conclusion was reached. This mother was not a risk to her child. Yet the original narrative did not change. This is not coincidence. It reveals how certainty hardens inside closed systems and collapses under independent scrutiny. To the public, you do not need to decide who was right. You only need to see that when safeguards cannot correct themselves, harm is inevitable. To professionals, this is not an accusation. Systems drift when challenge is treated as danger. Swimming daily against what attachment, conscience and human instinct recognise carries a cost to the human soul. History shows that barbaric systems are rarely upheld by monsters, but by ordinary people following procedure. And to policymakers, no new law can fix a system that cannot admit error. Oversight is not more process. It is accountability when independent evidence contradicts institutional certainty. Safeguarding that cannot be questioned is no longer safeguarding. It is power protecting itself. The measure of a system is not how confidently it speaks, but how it responds when it is wrong.